Hi, Prabhakar.
I think you took my daughter's name. That's why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there is one of my friend who is also in this, Anuradha, Assistant Commissioner in Pune. Yeah.
Great. Sir, Mr. Ramesh here is my colleague in SVOIM. He'll be also helping me moderate the session.
Great. Great. Thanks, Ramesh.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I think
We'll start, sir.
Yeah.
Good evening. Welcome to the 45th edition of Guru Manthan, 50 discussions with educationists and thinkers. The Guru Manthan series is an initiative of the Vivekananda Institute for Leadership Development, a unit of the Swami Vivekananda Youth Movement. Gilead's mission is to develop human and social capital to build a resurgent India. We work with four sectors with the aim of enhancing the potential of individuals and institutions across the development sector. This particular series, the Guru Manthan, was started in August 2020 to create a platform for teachers to discuss, debate, and learn about diverse perspectives and practices in the field of education. Started out on 1st of August, we have had the who's who in the space of education, right from policy makers to actual practitioners in the space of education over the last 45 weeks. Today we have with us yet another very interesting personality and an interesting topic being discussed today. We have with us Mr. A.N. Ramachandra, the former Joint Commissioner of the Navodaya Vidyalaya Samiti. He continues to be very active in the academic space. He continues to coordinate the outreach activities of the Navodaya Samiti and has had diverse experiences being a part of research institutions and other academic assignments. He'll be talking about the assessment of the creativity and critical thinking, a topic which is actually hotly being discussed because India is a part of the PISA study this year. So we welcome you, sir, and thank you for joining us. And the session would follow the regular template where we would have 25 to 30 minutes of your presentation, followed by a moderated Q&A session for 30 minutes. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Good evening. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Good evening, Praveen. Good evening, Ramesh. Thanks for inviting me to speak on this topic today. What I'll do is I'll introduce the topic for 2 to 3 minutes, and then quickly, as you rightly said, I will jump to PISA, and then talk about its relevance with us, and we'll also deal along with that some of the strategies people think about while preparing the children for PISA or while placing the country in the forefront of the global platform. So if you can permit me, I can I'll share the screen. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I think it will take some time.
Full screen.
Screen is visible.
Screen is visible, but slideshow has not begun. Yeah. Yeah. Typically, when Praveen talked to me to speak about PISA, I thought it may not be appropriate to talk about PISA because I'm not a representative of OECD or PISA group right now, so I'm outside. But I'm with the students, I'm with the teachers. That being the case, it gives me a good context if I speak about creativity and critical thinking, uh, which is also a basic um, uh, principle behind PISA. So why do we actually, I will begin with one of the small query for myself. Why do we get into training mode? That is human training mode, which we call to begin with schooling. See, what after all we need is, as a human being, the person has to recognize familiar information, get information related to our daily life, recognize familiar context and interpret the context, get the understanding of procedural knowledge. Say, for example, if you say taking food, what are the procedures involved in it? It is just not eating alone, it is preparation. And then after taking into body, we have to take it out also. You know, this is the whole lot of the procedure. How do we get the energy? So many things. So the person gets into the procedural knowledge, then associate and link moderately complex content and context in the real life situation. What we see in the real life is not the simple, say, theories. It is a complex. If we say a web of knowledge, it consists of a whole lot of complexities. But all those complexities cannot be thrown to the children. What we divide that, we divide it into subject, and then part by part, we give it in the training. The child should be able to associate those things. Then this the individual should be able to construct the explanations for familiar events. Similarly, for unfamiliar events. Unfamiliar events, when I talk, is about the abstract, which is not seen, but it may be seen in the future, or sometimes which is not seen at all. Say, for example, when we talk of, say, mathematical model, a model is an abstract thing. You know, it has to be in the mental side. Then draw conclusions, a courageous activity with the interrelated or intertwined or interdisciplinary complexities. One should be able to take decisions, right or wrong. I'm not taking you to jurisprudence part, but the individual has to take decisions at every time. Then use the principles learned in the daily life or under simulation. When I say simulation, it is an abstract thing. So like this, we have lot many expectations when we see the training. I will take back how these complexities are told to the students. This is something, a diagram I have picked up, which is being practiced for more than 3-4 decades. This fairly explains what are the levels at which we are addressing the things. If it is a fair amount of recognizing an item or calculating small things or repetition based on the knowledge portions what we have, or tabulate certain numbers given, or recognize certain items, events, match them. These are all very small level. Then it grows up, take certain inferences, collect certain informations, organize certain data or information, then predict, interpret, distinguish, like this. Then similarly, it goes to next level of appraising. Use the concept to solve non-routine problems or unfamiliar situations, what I explained earlier, and then be able to explain the phenomena. Like that, if it takes to the next level, the person should be able to draw a conclusion or prove that this is the issue, right? So for example, generally we use the word prove only in mathematics. It's not so. The child should be able to prove that. Say if a child wants to understand why rains come, he should be able to prove that this is the reason, this is how it comes, and he has to be very logically presenting that. So with this, when he graduates up to the highest level, he should be using creativity, critical thinking so familiarly within himself or herself that the person who is in front of the individual will be able to get convinced about it. This is what we use. In this context, I therefore make a relationship between the topic and the PISA, what Mr. Praveen has stated right now. PISA, most of you know, since I see some of the familiar faces, that it is organized by Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, started in 2000. India participated, could not get better. And these are the tests designed to gauge the ability of the children to display their mastery over the learning what they have undertaken in the schooling. There are 36 OECD member countries, 50 are non-members, and many like these do participate. So focus area in 2022 is mathematics. What it means is, even if it is reading literacy, it will have some amount of mathematics, and everything is just done in an informal way. What PISA measures is competency, not the content. The capacity of the student to apply the acquired competencies in the real life situations, then ability to interpret the text, and ability to acquire the knowledge fully with a which is required for a 15-year-old. The level is only up to 15 years. Demonstrate the reasoning skills and ability to display social skills and emotional skills. These are very inert objectives which will be reflected through some of the survey items which come in. So why PISA for India? This is a bigger question almost all the people talk about. If we say, I take you back to the second slide I gave, these are the competencies which are required to be, say, this is what we said. If these are the required abilities for the children, then somebody has to say that these abilities have come to the forefront of the student. They have learned it, or they have been able to practice. So instead of we alone, we can also sit along with the contemporary world. That means students of the other countries, and sit along with them, field our students, and then have a sample. So in the PISA, what actually happens is, not all the students are tested. The OECD asks the country, whom do you want to send as a representative? This time India said, okay, we want to send Chandigarh administration as the sample. So that is how UT Chandigarh, all the schools, all schools which are having these children up to 15 years, they are participants there, around 15 years. This will lead to recognition and acceptability of Indian students outside also. It is, although we have lot of our heritage, it is not sufficient that we just celebrate our heritage amongst ourselves. We will have to sit along with another person and share our views and share our competencies, so that we will also grow and we will also let others to grow, and our students will also have a better job market in the global scenario, and help the students to move away from rote learning. This is what I just wanted to stress, that everybody, most of the people, including teachers, believe that there has been a lot of rote learning, which I strongly condemn. Okay, it's not true that everybody is organizing or doing only rote learning. It may be true that in the race for marks, out of 100 or percentages, there may be visibility, larger visibility of the rote learning habits. But there are people, there are students, there are teachers who are practicing the creativity and critical thinking. That is how our country has been able to make so much of progress over several decades and centuries. And if I'm talking all these things, it also means that it is not a new thing for us. So the objectives of learning, objectives of schooling, objectives of training have been there for a very past time. So this is what the context our PISA is, and this has been organized by the ministry, the Central Board of Secondary Education, National Council for Educational Research and Training. All the people are together involved in it. I have picked up this slide from the CBSE platform. So roughly for an organization which fields around 5,000 children who participate, and amongst the students who participate, 47% of them take a combination of maths and science papers, and another 47% take maths and reading, and similarly 6% take reading and science. So this is how the question papers are also floated, because we in our context believe in single question paper throughout the country, but it is not so. In the sampling, it is a stratified sampling. It is distributed across subject-wise, area-wise, age-wise, it is distributed. I have already told you that Chandigarh UT administration is representing India, but Kendriya Vidyalayas and Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalayas are also joining as a partner in this, fielding their students as their national sample. It is only for the understanding of the system like KV or JNV. It will not be part of the calculating the ranking otherwise in the global scenario. To prepare the children for this, what the people are doing along with the teaching learning process, a lot of contests are being encouraged in organizing competency-based learning or granular understanding of the concepts, science interactions, and experiential learning. I was just referring here that if you conduct one small example, we did it in Navodaya when we were there. Navodaya practices a lot many such things. Solar lamp assembling, one activity. If you search in the books of 6 to 12, including literature or somewhere here covered in one activity. So what it means is, to teach the concepts, it is not necessary that we take all the concepts one by one and then teach. One activity can be taken and the web of concepts can be viewed there to tell the students. Collaboration with scientific organizations, competency-based questions are introduced in the internal examinations. Lot many, even CBSE also has introduced. I have seen in the state government also have started practicing this. And thankfully, the tinkering labs have been initiated through Atal Innovation Mission by the Government of India. and the ideas of students are being collected just to encourage them to come out with the better ideas. Many organizations like Department of Science and Technology, Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, National Institutes of Law, many people are practicing this and involving the students. And involvement of bigger organizations like Indian Institute of Science Education Research, IITs, and Tata Institute of Social Sciences, many people are joining in these hands to train the students and to give a momentum. Why? The reason is very simple. If there is an opportunity for changing or improving our own system, there are many people who are collaborating with us. And designing, designing is also coming as one of the major core subjects now. Earlier, in engineering, we used to have only mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and civil engineering as the core subjects. Now, designing, which was part of many subjects, including the humanities, now it is coming out, even humanities and fine arts, it is coming out as a separate core subject. And with this, many people are also directly interacting at various levels. There are some other preparations specifically done for 2022 PISA. Organizations have formed a core team, beginning from the ministers level, Government of India, ministers level, down to earth. Everybody is involved in it, because this is an opportunity for the system to improve. And this is coinciding with the introduction of national education policy. Incidentally, national education policy also deals majority of its focus on creativity and critical thinking and the platforms to be provided for improving these skills amongst the students. Many people are conducting the discussions, involved in it, sensitizing the teachers, school leaders, and naturally our teachers are more scared that no, nothing doing. You have to give some materials also. Okay, the materials, handbooks, and then practice materials. Some tools have come up, and many organizations have also come out with the support. Okay, we will provide the analytics, we'll provide the questions, we'll design the questions. But very fortunately, I must say that the teachers are coming out to prepare and design the questions because they have caught the point now. This is what I feel, that a revolutionary participation. Along with this, now, since the PISA platform has been openly taught, most of the teachers are going and seeing the practices in other countries. If earlier only a few individuals used to go, now thanks to the internet and the facilities available, the people to go and see, understand what the practices are outside. So this is what I said about the PISA context. I'll take some examples of how the varieties are being viewed. Earlier, I will not compare with the practices made earlier because these are some of the things which were practiced by good teachers earlier as well. Many people say, no, everybody is doing rote learning. It's not so. Because if you are in the major platform, so you will also follow major platforms norms, as well as you also do some kind of your niche activities. That is how students are also trained. I also made this statement to begin with. And they also participate in small common examinations and do get marks. Whether they score better marks or not, it is immaterial. But now with this common examination coming, rather the survey is coming, students will be able to display their creative knowledge. For example, I'll take the areas. There are 3 areas: reading literacy, mathematics literacy, and science literacy. I'll take one by one and then just show you quickly what all it consists of. Say, reading literacy is the ability to understand, use, and reflect on written text in order to achieve one's goals, to develop one's knowledge and potential, and to participate effectively in society. So what it means is that he should be able to learn with a purpose. The purpose is using that in the daily life. Is this happening? How to test it? There are varieties of items um, which people would be talking. I see some of the hands up. I think after finishing the talk, we would be able to address these queries. These are some of the facets of readers, what the readers are expected to do, which I have already spelled out in the beginning. And these are some of the text formats which the students will be able to check up: multiple text, continuous text, mixed text, non-continuous text. And these are some of the text formats which the student will be encountering in the survey items. That is the continuous. It is also there in the textbooks. The NCERT syllabus also is developed in such a way that all these components are embedded, but there are no headers like this. That's the only thing. And text types, it is description or narration or expositions, which the people use or which is there in the textual material. Also, similarly, argumentation, instructions, transactions. Then it may be in the print or digital. This generally in the advanced countries, the PISA survey is conducted in the digital form. But in India, India has chosen the print media, where we get single sheet, brochures, magazines, books. The contexts are picked up from these items. Then the relationship between the reading framework and the aspect subscales. This reading literacy uses the content primarily from within the text. Similarly, it also uses primarily upon outside the knowledge, which the student will have to remember. What is expected is at that age, the child should be able to, should have attained these kind of knowledge. So use the content which is given there, and also reflect on the information and the knowledge which the student has already achieved. Text situations are also on different platforms: personal situations, public situations, occupational situations, and which are given in the textbook or interactive learning softwares provided or exposed to the students. They are also included. So how the student reads, the ways of reading a text: it's skimming, getting the just gist of it, or searching specific information, scanning, reading novels for extensive reading, concentrate on a particular text and go deeper into it, intensive reading. Similarly, levels of reading: elementary reading, inspectional reading, analytical reading, synoptical reading, speed reading. So what is expected in the PISA is the text will be very voluminous. You know, sometimes the question paper itself of that 3 hours or 3.5 hours, it extends to so many pages. So students should be able to read much faster. What is expected is, at least if the student is able to have some a limited 250 above words per minute, then he would be able to cover as much of the text given. Why is it so? That's a major question people ask. At that age, the student should be able to gather so much of information. To gather so much of information, the child should be able to having the ability to see so many words. Does it mean only seeing the words or reading? Not exactly. He has to understand. He should have that speed of interaction between the mind, the coordination between the mind and the eye, and thinking ability to transact within himself while reading. So these are so many aspects intent demonstrated there. What is expected in the survey items? I just explained 4 levels earlier, which was followed from the Bloom's taxonomy. PISA typically subdivides it into 5 to 6 levels Okay, the typically 1% of the questions will be level 6. How does it highest order? Make multiple inferences, comparisons, and contrasts. Say, for example, when we say corona, do we accept it as a mere disease which has come from the heaven, or do we start investigating why it has come, why we are victimized by this, who has done it, why is it going, why is it spreading, how can I stop it, is it necessary to stop it all? So a very critical thinking, very creative thinking, and work on the models, that kind of things. Similarly, level 5, organize 7 pieces of deeply embedded information, take an inference, interpret it, reflect. What is level 4? Locate and organize several pieces of embedded information and demonstrate the understanding. That question around 29%. Similarly, level 3, around 58% of the questions are in level 3. Level 2, level 1, level 1A, 1B. That is the smallest being some kind of 98% of the students are able to address the level 1 questions. That is how why they keep on stating that if majority of the people are only within the 1B, that means that we are somewhere in the rote system. Therefore, we have to graduate up to level 6, which provides the opportunity of the child to use his reasoning ability and thinking ability, creativity, and critical application of critical knowledge. So that comes the necessity. Similarly, like scientific literacy, ability to identify, ability of the child to think scientifically about the evidence they encounter in their real life situations. Okay, and that's also like what the classes, science classes, should do to achieve this. Engage, explore, explain, elaborate, evaluate, extend, experience. Some it is given in the acronym, but the purpose behind is that child should be able to experience and to explain what he is undertaking. Like what I said in case of the reading, science also, there are 7 levels, 1A, 1B, 1A, 2, 3, 1, 4, 6, 5, 6. Same situations. Similarly, like mathematics. Mathematical literacy is an individual's capacity to identify and understand the role that mathematics plays in the world, to make well-founded judgment, and to use and engage with mathematics in ways that meet the needs of individuals' life as a constructive, concerned, and reflective citizen. This is very important. The value is also important. One has to construct the knowledge, but a person should be concerned with the society or the knowledge and the effect of that in the situation. If you see, even Einstein said his innovation should have been mostly used for the human development rather than destruction. It is true for every set of the knowledge. It can be used either way. So mathematics, the domains are explained like this, how the problems are researched, how the problems are approached. Okay. PISA typically examines the capacities of the students to analyze, reason, and communicate mathematical ideas effectively as they pose, formulate, solve, and interpret mathematical problems in a variety of situations. Why mathematics is considered more important for the situation is that it is allowing the individual to go up to the abstract level. Okay, if we are able to make a mathematical model, we will be able to take the problems to a higher level and experience it. So that is how some kind of a mathematical cycle is explained. I'll be able to share the, I have already shared it with Praveen, you can see it later. Uh, Starting with a problem situated in the reality, the child should be able to sense its mathematical solution in terms of a real situation or simulation and make a decision. That means the child is getting ready for any kind of contingencies in the future. That is how, if you see, when people said Corona has come, people started commenting, have you not prepared for this? What does it mean? We had the syllabus. Probably most of the teachers here remember, even disaster management subject was introduced long back, not now, long back. Okay. And what it indicates is we should be able to train the students to prepare for the disaster. Disaster doesn't come with a label pre-informed. It will come pre-informed. So we should be able to make uh, estimates of these and then make certain extrapolations and then keep ready our coordinates so that we will be able to be prepared for the contingencies. So typically, like other subjects, other areas, mathematics also has 6 levels. The ultimate level being students can conceptualize, generalize, and utilize information based on their investigation and modeling. All these contexts are generally given in the textual item only. The student's memory capacity is not that much concentrated. So that is how we find it more familiar. Generally, in our examination, it is seen, it is felt by the teachers as well as students that out of the blue, some questions are taken where the child should be rather remembering so many things while attempting a question. But that kind of stress is not given in the competency-based questions. That is how CBSE has also very gradually started changing its question patterns, where a scenario will be given with a lot of text. If the child is able to read that scenario appropriately, he will be able to answer the questions from 1 to 5. Each scenario will have some 5 to 6 questions, and which can be, sometimes it is made into descriptive type, and most of the times it can be converted into digital side, like multiple choice questions. Okay. Typically, like public service commissions or banking examinations, these people do it. They have done a lot of research how to convert a descriptive question into multiple choice questions. It's not that we are ignoring. To answer one question, to take yes or no, okay, one has to think a lot, make certain calculations, mental calculations, written calculations, so the child should be able to take those decisions. That is how some of the competencies needed for mathematical literacy is mathematical thinking, reasoning, argumentation, communication, problem-solving techniques, and representing these problems and the models in different situations, use certain symbols so that we can talk of precise things, and use the tools and technology more extensively. So this is how I just thought that I'd be able to tell you how PISA survey is organized and given to the people. And I think we should be able to take certain questions which come on the way. My only purpose of telling this was that the world over, the method of assessment is typically to test the ability of the child to understand by himself or herself the concepts which are required for the daily life. Whether the child, after going through 10 years of schooling, be able to take a decision what to do later, talk to people the way it is required, and have a courage to say, yes, I can prepare my food, I can earn my food, I can make my livelihood, I can talk to the people, I can think the way I like, I can satisfy my brain with the habits I acquire. So these kind of ability, if the child is able to have, then we are successful in giving the training through the schools. Thank you, teachers.
Thank you, sir. It was a very informative and thought-provoking session. So we'll start off with a few questions which have come in the chat box. I thought we'll sort of club them into three categories. One with respect to PISA itself and our experience with PISA in 2009 and our preparedness for 2021 and what has changed. The second aspect where we will pick up some questions is with respect to we have a system where we are now talking about creativity and critical thinking as the 21st century skills, and there's a lot of discussion happening around it. With or without PISA, they are going to be the goals of the education system to deliver on those skills. So how do we assess them? How do we make them as a part of our system? And the third set of questions that we would take up is to look at how, as teachers, we prepare ourselves towards inculcating these skills at the school level. So the first a bunch of questions, if I may start off with, is it's on a slightly negative note. Actually, when India did participate in the PISA study in 2009, there was a lot of pushback saying that the PISA assessment is not relevant to India, or it is Western society's interpretation of what are the skills or what society requires, which is being imposed on countries like India. And that's why we pulled out. We didn't do very well as well. But today we are again going back to PISA. So what is that aspect which has forced us to relook or reevaluate where we are and then accept it and move
on? Say you have thrown three issues together. So I'll just try to combine. What is the point in keeping ourselves away from the scenario and keep publishing that we are competent, capable? Okay, we should be able to sit together, participate in the common platform, and then also show that yes, we also have a system. That is one part which is mostly emotional. But on the other hand, when you think of a global scenario or the global economic life, there our students need to have the experiences all across. Even if you say one of an individual in India would like to do the business, it is not necessary that he will be doing business within his village. He will have to have the contemporary world, how the world works. To have that knowledge, he should be able to get exposed to that level. He should be able to interact with them, interact with the students outside the country, or interact with the individuals outside the country when he grows older, and then take decisions. To do that, we will have to see how those people are also trained. So that is the second reason. Third reason being, you have just asked us, say, something negative or positive. I don't consider that way. We have never, there is no need to accept low score in PISA as a defeat, not at all. So the methods what we were following may not have matched there. Okay, if you ask a simple question, many people had this question, does it mean that in India there were no good human beings having good brains? Not true. Okay, many people, and I have seen great teachers who have taught the children. This is what in the initial note itself I have said, that creativity and critical thinking have been practiced for several ages in our country. Okay, it has been followed. But when it comes to the game, you know, if you take PISA as a game, this game was a new thing for us. Okay, and people participated. Probably there was not much kind of exposure with that. probably I still feel that with 3-4 exposures, India will be able to show actually its ability or its competency.
Thank you, sir. I just had a follow-up on the same question that Praveen raised. I think, yeah, when we did it in 2009, roughly about, Tamil Nadu and Himachal Pradesh participated, and now it's going to be Chandigarh. The one question I had is that, PISA in one sense, actually the results reflects the the quality of the education system in a country, and not really the ability of a students, if you look at it primarily from that angle. So now what we are doing is that, in one sense, by preparing students for the PISA test, uh, a small representative sample of students. I know this is going to be a large sample right now, but still, it doesn't represent everything. So in that sense, how do you think that would help in actually examining us? Because what we might be doing is preparing them just for this test and preparing a set of students for it, but not really globalizing the learnings or the learning outcomes that might come from the whole response itself.
That is why I told you that I stopped not using the word PISA. Okay, in the beginning I made this statement. Okay, and more truly, the critical thinking, creativity exercises have been practiced for a long time in the country, but these issues were not highly highlighted. Okay, and it was also true that some of the teacher groups were not prepared, and when you go to the larger scale, it is very difficult to get this. So as a student, if you also recollect, at least 20 to 30, even during my period, we had some 30 to 40% of the teachers, if I can recollect and assess now, who are really encouraging the creativity and critical thinking. I can still remember the questions which I had in the internal examinations in my high school, which used to be out of the total context which we had in the textbooks. And the teachers and students enjoyed it. So it was true. And I don't accept the statement that country is preparing for PISA. No, not at all.
No,
it's not possible, and it is not necessary also. Right. Okay. And the government is also not engaged in preparing the students for PISA. Okay. The PISA as a title has provided an opportunity to see whether our students are prepared to show their ability in the competency based questions. Okay. For example, if you take JEE entrance examination, okay, this is purely based on critical thinking and creativity. Okay. And this has been practiced for almost more than 23 years now. Correct, sir? So that being the case, people are following and people are preparing also. Okay, that is how the classes have also gone. Once one assessment is put, rather placed at a standard or a benchmark, rest of all the people in the system, they get they tailor their activities, methodologies, procedures, objectives in the same way. So it has been done. I don't accept the statement that country is preparing. No, not at all.
Actually, what I meant, sir, is that when the rankings come, they actually rank based on the countries, not. So that is all I meant. I mean, in the sense that, in that sense, is it a reflection of the system itself rather than the reflection of the? That is what I was.
Actually. It is. Even all examinations are the assessment of the system. All assessment. See, if you conduct a one test, unit test in the class for a month, it is a reflection of the teaching, how well this has been taught to the children. Because we have a formal and informal as well as global understanding that every child is able to learn effectively, right? So we have this statement, and it is acceptable also. That being the case, if you are conducting the test and the students are not able to score better, what it means is this has not been appropriately communicated. Why it is happening? There are many questions. One of the reasons could be the number inside the classroom. So the teaching, most effective teaching is 1:1, which is not possible in our situation. So we are going for 1:30 or 1:40. Okay. So in that scenario, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time for the teacher to go into the hearts of this child.
Thank you, sir. One question I had was, if we take a step back and say that, okay, I mean, without PISA, if we just focus on the 21st century skills, which are even the NEP highlights that are required for the neo-citizens of the country and the world. One of the challenges we have is, how do we assess whether the kids have picked up these skills or not? So can you share some anecdotes or experiences or experiments which have been taken up in the JNVs or other locations, where we have been able to assess the creativity and critical thinking? We know that there are opportunities which nurture them, but whether it has resulted in learning of those skills or enabling learning of those skills, how do we assess that?
You are placing a business principle on the educational platform. Okay. So you want to see the output in a physical form, how the impact is visible, how is the impact visible to us in advance of making of the child towards the 21st century. Okay. Let me just recollect the same statement which I have made 3 times in this talk, that in the teaching learning process, the main and core objective of the education is that we are preparing the children for future. Okay. What does it mean is, the child should be able to learn such coordinates which will help the child to estimate what is going to happen in the future. Okay. A simple calculation. So those skills are visible through the you are asking this question, how is it visible to the world that we are doing right thing or not? It is visible through how they are practicing in the society, how they are adopted in the society. You will also need to have some patience to study a particular batch or a particular age group, how they progress and what they do in the society, what value they carry. Okay. In this 21st century skill, one of the most important thing is also the value which the children carry. Okay, which is what is stressed in the national education policy also. Okay, this we have been stressing right from the old days. Okay, right from the older days we have been practicing this. There has not been any change in that policy. Okay, value has to be embedded within the curricular practices for the children. We have been doing it, and there is no need to be so much hurry to make a calculation quickly. Yes, we are doing right thing. This is the only right way, and especially in the educational practices, it keeps on evolving depending upon the varieties in the society. Society also keeps changing, no? Say the types of war which used to be there 100 years ago, it's not so now. Okay, whether we are prepared to guess those things and make preparations, that the new generation will think. And how are they prepared to think about the future? we are making certain calculations. Okay, that is how the educational and policy makers calculate and make certain attempts to place those coordinates in the system to see that the children are able to prepare themselves to make their own life better.
Thank you, sir. In fact, I do agree with you when you made this remark that when we are preparing our kids, we are preparing for them for a world in which we don't even know what type of jobs exist or what are the skills that are required. If they only have the ability to learn something on their own, I think they will be preparing themselves for the future.
And I make a small statement that, if we keep on telling that we are preparing the children for 21st century, it may not be true. Okay, because 21st century is not the end goal.
Exactly.
Okay, there are many more centuries ahead. If you are preparing the children for the 21st century, the 21st century children will have to prepare the children for 22nd century. So the point is, are we preparing the children for the future? Okay, if the future has different coordinates, if we are preparing the children to understand the varieties of the future coordinates and the things which can help them to understand the future coordinates, that should be positively accepted, I believe.
Well said. Dr. Subaya has a question for you, sir.
Oh, I am scared. He is my guru.
So modest of you. It was an excellent presentation, Mr. Ramachandra. I was just interested in knowing what follow-up action was taken on the basis of 2009 PISA assessment, and will it be continued in the same schools, and observe whether there is any improvement on the basis of the follow-up action?
Sir, your first question, actually, I am not competent to answer this. Because it needs certain authority to speak about. But I can, having some information about it, I can say that mostly many people thought it as a defeat and then immediately regressed from the scenario. That is what has happened. In between, there have been a lot of work from 2009 onwards. There have been a lot of work to remodel the textbooks, remodel the experiences, remodel educational practices, and introduce the teacher training in a better way, digital initiatives. Many things have happened without taking the names of the PISA. On document, I have seen that the learnings from 2009 have been discussed at various platforms. And once the people thought that we were not actually addressing the core issues what the global platform is expecting, so in a different way, they started preparing and not under PISA.
Okay.
And my questions are again not diplomatic. my response is not exactly diplomatic.
But be a little of a diplomat also in such a forum. And I am glad to think about my particular interest at TIMS also, because assessment is not the end of the study. Assessment is some tool to bring about some good practices and for improvement. Unless that is kept in view, the assessment is only a formal thing. Teaching and
it
testing
becomes a formal competition.
For students, yes, teaching, the testing and improvement for institutions are the watchwords.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Like we do teach, test, reteach. in the classroom situation. But for institutions, assess, then try to bring some changes so that the old maladies or deficiencies won't repeat in the next assessment. I hope that will be taken care of. Thank you anyway, Mr. Ramachandra.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, we are kind of running out of time, so we'll have one last question about preparation of teachers or teachers' readiness, not for PISA as an assessment, but for creating classrooms where kids learn the skills that we have spoken about. So how do we start? Any comments on that?
Yeah, the complete feature in the national education policy explains this. Okay, how should we prepare our children, teachers for the new generation students? The national education policy has dealt it at length, not only for teachers in the school system, but teachers up to the university level. How this has to be remodeled, what kind of an energy is required to be taken, and mostly it has dealt with the collaborative efforts required to prepare the children. So in one context, I can just conclude that preparing the teachers in isolation will not help, and is the collaboration with the institutes of higher learning, industry, business, agriculture formats, all the people together, if they are able to join with, then we are preparing the teachers. It's not that putting the teachers in four walls and then telling them that these are the new coordinates, these are the new coordinates, not that. Their collaboration, direct collaboration is required. For example, I can tell you that I have been now working on a project of with a simple statement. My statement is like this: it is not necessary for every child to go for undergraduate program or postgraduate program. It is not necessary. If the objective is to start the economic life, right after age 18, one can start. So the project, what we are doing is that to find a market for the opportunity market for the student soon after the class 12. The child should be able to get that. He should be able to practice his employment or the career. In between, if he feels he can get the training for further training for his academic career also, he can practice that. There are n number of opportunities available at the academic platform also. So that way, we should be, we are having that. And it is not new for our country, and it is not new for other countries also. Many countries are practicing this, that they are letting the children to choose their career right after class 12th, even if they want to go for employment or some kind of a break or some kind of a industrial exposures, they are being let to go. Mostly in our setup, in our family setups, in our country, we have practiced for a long time that we should have long degrees along with us. Okay, it's not necessary. So whenever they like, they can get into that. And the main purpose, what I told in the beginning also, if the child is able to take a decision at the age of class 12 or 16 or 18 years, yes, this is my passion, I can do this. He's able to identify himself. So the training is successful. So those coordinates of exposures need to be provided. That is how we need to train our teachers.
Thank you very much, sir. I think it was a very informative session. Request you to give your closing remarks on this session.
Thanks, Praveed and Ramesh, for letting me to participate along with this. And my thanks are due to many of the friends who have come here to participate in the discussion. It's so I'm honored to see my mentor, Dr. P.V. Subbiah, who also has done his research work in the competency-based learning, or he very briefly mentioned about TIMS. Okay, so thanks. And altogether, what I would like to conclude is that visa is just a context today. Okay, and there is no need for anybody to prepare for this. We need to think exactly our own setup in our own situation, whether we are preparing the children to make them able to think about their own future. If we are successful in that, we have prepared the children for 21st century or 22nd century, whatever it is. Okay, so we are talking about 21st century, putting a limitation on our life of 100 years. Okay, why should we put that life? Why should we put that limitation to our life itself? See, what kind of restrictive education is this? So we should not put our restrictions for the children to learn. So they can prepare for even another 5 centuries. There is no restriction for it. The only thing is that we should be preparing them to think about their own future, make them capable of thinking with courage and with freedom. Okay, these are the two major things which we should be able to provide. And more truly, Ramesh typically referred that the children are let to learn themselves. Okay, what it means is that हम ज़्यादा ही पकड़ के रखे हैं उसको. So we have to let that chain, let that shackles free from the child, and then let us not over assume ourselves that we are teaching so many things to the children. It is not necessary, and it is not true also. Okay, and if you see some of the anecdotes of the some gifted children, you will analyze that the children have the ability to learn by themselves. But in a lighter way, we always say this, that who is abnormal? Abnormal is the smaller percentage is abnormal, and the larger percentage is normal. What it means is that if a very bright child is there, if we are able to bring him down to the rest of the students inside the classroom, we have normalized that person. Okay, this kind of things we do practice. Generally, it is the classroom scenario or the education scenario or the academic scenario should provide a platform for the child to grow himself as he is, as it is permissible for himself. Okay, and it is not necessary that the school alone works for this, or the academic institutions alone work for this. Even the families will also have to work. So when we are talking about this, it is also necessary that we educate our parents, we also educate our society why and how and in what way we should be enabling the children to learn themselves, or learn at their pace, or learn the way they like, and learn the thing they like, or learn the volume what they estimate for themselves. If we start putting restrictions, like as I said, 21st century, then we are putting a lot of restrictions. Let us come out of this restriction and provide the children the freedom they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think on behalf of the Swami Vivekananda Youth Movement and the Vivekananda Institute for Leadership Development, I would like to thank you for this wonderful session. At a personal level, at the end of the session, I have more questions than I had before the session. I think that is the perfect system where you can actually have creativity as well as critical thinking happening. So in that sense, I'm sure that is the general feeling in all the people who have participated. Also, thank you everyone for having come here, shared your thoughts, for having coming regularly to the Guru Manthan series of lectures. Thank you everyone, and have a great weekend.
Ramesh, if I may quickly add, I should thank Gopal Krishna sir also for having spent quite some time in preparing for this session. Thank you, sir, and thank you, Ramachandra, sir, once again. And next session, we have another interesting person speaking, Professor Rajaram Sharma, former head of the Central Institute of Education Technology, who would be talking about the use of technology in the space of education, especially during this pandemic era. So look forward to seeing you all during the next session as well. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.